Welcome. Read A Course in Miracles along with us in our home style text class. For information about our live workbook classes, email us and check out our website for more course support, including retreats at the Little Garden in Sedona.
Good morning, Jan.
Hi, hon.
What's we doing?
Well, we're going to start from the beginning again of the Sane Curriculum, which is Chapter 12, Section 5 in A Course in Miracles. And in this version, it is on page 225.
Yeah,
We covered it a little bit at the end last week, but it's really worth using as a foundation for the rest of this section.
Yeah. A lot in there, and he's bringing forth themes that he started with this chapter with, and split mind in the world. So we'll draw those out as we go through it.
Okay. All right. Well, let's start with Dale, if you don't mind. Could you read and give us your thoughts, Dale?
Okay. The Sane Curriculum. Only love is strong because it is undivided. The strong do not attack because they see no need to do so. Well, I think that's just understanding who we are, and there's no need to attack. When we understand that we are as God created us, and we see other people that way as well, then there's no need to resist or attack. Before the idea of attack can enter your mind, you must have perceived yourself as weak. Again, to me, that's saying I perceive myself as ego.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because you attacked yourself and believed that the attack was effective, you behold yourself as weakened, no longer perceiving yourself and your brothers as equals, and regarding yourself as weaker, you attempt to equalize the situation you made. You use attack to do so because you believe that attack was successful in weakening you. Oh, we want to strike back. We want to get even.
Yes.
You know, it's the human condition, it seems like. And it's a hard thing to train our minds not to do. But if we can learn to just not engage on almost everything, really everything, but that seems like almost impossible task to me, something that's really, really personal. But most stuff is not worth engaging. All it does is steal our peace.
Yeah. So what is it? Only love is strong because it's undivided. Did we talk about that? Or is he's going to pick up how?
Well, it's going to come in as we go through here. What do you guys think it means? Love being undivided.
In the context of valuing it or thinking attack has real power.
Does it have to do with the oneness?
Yes, and that love is what everything is, one.
Right.
So real love is unconditional. Special love is divided. It's not even love, right? I love you, but I hate you, or I fear you. So that's not love.
Yeah, it's consistent. But I was thinking in terms of undivided means sometimes I think love is the response, but like Dale was referring to, sometimes I think attack is what will get my needs met. So it may be part of
division.
Yeah, that may be part of it.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on this paragraph?
I was thinking that, love is all there is, and it's not opposed, right? And the other part of that is kind of the second sentence, the strong do not attack because they see no need to do so, is that certainty that we talk about that you have with the Holy Spirit all the time. It is certain. So because it is that aspect of reality is so certain, there's no reaction ever needed.
Right. We just saw the movie Michael again last night. Michael, the angel who will teach you what unconditional love and angels might be, what we are. And at one point, so he likes battle, right? That's the historical Archangel Michael fighting the devil. And he's just in this bar fight. He's just impervious. It's like, they come at him with pool cues and all kinds of things. And it's like, no biggie. I think that's a symbol of knowing that you're invulnerable. When we're invulnerable, it's like, they can say whatever they want.
That's what he's going to pick up on. Our invulnerability is what teaches innocence.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting, if I'm getting this right, that the reason that I'm attacking is because I perceive their attack weakened me, right? Yes. So it's like you said, it's at that moment you can decide. That's where where you're living with, the spirit or the ego.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think we can recognize in that sentence, the strong do not attack, because they say, need people who are really, verbose and egotistical. They're always,
putting other people down
or highlighting their abilities and all of that.
Yeah.
But the quietness of true strength is not, I don't need to boast about what I am. All that.
Connie, would you read 2 for us, please?
That is why the recognition of your own invulnerability is so important to the restoration of your sanity. Yeah, I like that word, invulnerability. I mean, being totally invulnerable it's once I get that, it's like everything's perfect,
Yeah.
Nothing can attack me. For if you accept your invulnerability, you are recognizing that attack has no effect. Although you have attacked yourself, you will be demonstrating that nothing really happened. Therefore, by attacking, you have not done anything. Once you realize this, you will no longer see any sense in attack, for it manifestly does not work and cannot protect you. Yeah, it's the whole pointlessness of attack. It doesn't, in the end, if I attack, I don't feel any better. I end up feeling worse.
Exactly.
Yet the recognition of your invulnerability has more than negative value. If your attacks on yourself have failed to weaken you, you are still strong. You therefore have no need to equalize the situation to establish your strength. That last sentence, it reminds me of this, trying to get equilibrium. That's the whole ego's thing. The ego's always struggling to try to feel okay. And that's where attack comes in. And there's no need for any of that.
Yeah.
Right.
When I was reading this, I went back to, so it says therefore by attacking, you have not done anything, although you have attacked yourself, sentence 3. Although you have attacked yourself, I went back to the first paragraph, and I attack myself when I think I'm weak, when I forget that I am as God created me. That is the attack on myself. Then I feel weak. Then I feel that I have to protect my so-called self.
Right. And in the end, the Course is saying attack is really about seeing yourself just as a body.
Yeah.
That's the real attack.
Yeah.
Because my body obviously is limited.
Yeah.
There's only a certain amount of space, only a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, it's about seeing yourself as separate.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
That whole separateness that at least I know I struggle with.
Absolutely.
Can I test my understanding of this whole concept of attacked and victims? And it's come up a lot, obviously, because of a lot of the stuff that's going on in the news, specifically the shooting in Texas and everything. And if I understand correctly, I think if I really think I'm invulnerable, I won't project attack, and therefore there will be no attack. Because doesn't it take two, an attacker and a perceived victim? I mean, isn't there some kind of unwritten contracts? Like, there's no victims, right? We are all projecting our experience, so we can't be a victim of something that happens out there because we've projected that. So I guess what I'm saying is, if I realize that I'm invulnerable, I don't believe in attack, I won't project attack. Is that fair?
You won't even see attack.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, eventually your body's you are gonna leave your body, right? Eventually. So don't confuse it with my body is invulnerable. It's like when you move your identification into spirit, then you don't need to project attack or see other people as attacking you. You can be at peace when somebody does something insane. You can know that you're safe. And that's much more likely to produce a result on the physical that's peaceful.
Yeah. One of the things he's going to bring up in this section, and soon, is that the only place you can change this is in yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah, that comes in.
That's coming up next. But also, we thought it necessary to remind you that this chapter began with, in the first paragraph of the first section, he says, understand that you do not respond to anything directly, but to your interpretation of it. Your interpretation thus becomes the justification for your response. That is why analyzing the motives of others is hazardous to you. If you decide that someone is really trying to attack you or desert you or enslave you, you will respond as if he had actually done so, having made his error real to you. So that's this idea that it's always an interpretation.
Right.
And it begins with, am I strong or weak?
Am I body or spirit?
Is love strong or is attack strong?
Right.
Do I need to defend myself from the outrageous demands you're making on me?
Yeah, or the horrible things that are happening in the world. The healing comes when we personally recognize we are spirit, we're one with God, we're one with everyone, and the things that happen on this physical plane are a dream. Now that's a state that we're trying to work ourselves to recognize what the real world is. The real world is a place where there's no purpose except forgiveness. And forgiveness is recognizing what's real and what's not real.
Yeah, and that's key, because also in this chapter, and he built on chapter 11, this idea of the real world is that you perceive only loving thoughts.
Yeah.
Or
a call for love.
Or fear gets translated, like he's going to say in the section, give this to the Holy Spirit. The opposite of love, which is fear, is a denial of love. You get retranslated into a call for love that you answer.
Right.
So that's the idea of the real world.
Yeah.
It's not just the loving thoughts, it's the call for love.
I want to make sure that we tie up the ends of Laura's question. And I think it was, if we are totally in our sane mind, will there be no attack? And I think the Course is saying that. I think the Course is saying there will be no sickness, there will be no death, but it doesn't mean no death of the body. It means you know who you are. So when you drop the body, you know you've taken off your clothes, right? Same thing with the whole dream of the world. The interim, the happy dream, is healing, peace, and all of that for the entire world. That is how we will see it when we individually make a decision.
See, that's such a key point, because if you look at religions, a lot of religions have sociological, political ideas, moral ideas about how the whole world is supposed to work, how you would respond to public and social events. None of that's in the course. The course doesn't assert anything political or geopolitical or anything. It says simply that you can heal this in you.
And when we heal it in us, what's today's lesson? Or is that yesterday? When I'm healed, I am not healed alone.
Right. That's today's lesson.
Yeah.
So canceling this out in myself and then sharing that as far as the course goes about the world.
And it says, just do it in yourself, and you don't need to know how the miracle extends.
Yeah.
When you accept the miracle for yourself and say, I'm not a body, I am free, I'm still as God created me, and really identify with the mind, the spirit, the heart, the love that you are as part of the Christ mind, it automatically heals the world, the Course tells us. So we don't have to worry about what to do about the situation in Texas. What do I do about my own mind having to do with that?
But don't you think also, if I've healed it in myself,
Yeah,
each and every individual is going to have some sort of response to that,
that's what it says.
but that's what it leaves to us as individuals. It's not-
Change your own mind.
like when we started Course Community House, which was a retreat place, there was an idea about how does a miracle worker do the dishes, or how does a miracle worker clean the house? There's none of that in the course.
No.
The
Hey,
behavior.
some people bought into that.
Well, I know.
Okay.
Everything you say for me is perception.
Yeah.
When the Course says the purpose is to remove the blocks to love,
Right.
Yes.
it's all about changing my perception.
Right.
So when it comes to things like, the Texas thing, it's how do I perceive that?
Yes.
What do I see? Do I see, like you say, do I see it all as bodies, or do I see something else? What do I choose to look at it with love?
Right.
Right.
Although I have a hard time doing that same thing with the people who won't pass gun laws.
Okay.
They're another story.
Maybe, yeah. Remember who's the guy, the preacher who did the children's show?
Oh, Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Rogers. Remember what I hang on to this, what he said: whenever you look at a tragedy and the way people are hurting each other, focus on the helpers, is what he said. Focus on, because people are going to meet this situation lovingly in very different ways.
Yeah.
Well, like what Mr. Rogers is saying is, perception, look here instead of there.
Yeah.
And perception can bring me peace. My perception can bring me peace, or it can bring me suffering. And there's no purpose for suffering. There's no good in it. It doesn't help. So
Yeah. We're taught by the ego that joining in suffering is a way to heal. And sacrifice is love. And both of those things, the Course is really trying hard for us to let go of.
Yeah.
Okay, good discussion.
Really, there's a lot to unpack in this section.
Yeah, there is.
But the idea of I only respond to my interpretation, enslavement, abandonment, and attack, that pretty much covers a lot of cognitive life for human beings.
Yeah, emotional life too.
Yeah.
Kathy, would you read 3, please?
Sure.
Tell us what stands out for you in here.
You will never realize the utter uselessness of attack except by recognizing that your attack on yourself has no effects. Plainly, I don't believe that right now.
Right.
But that's when I'll know, right?
Yep. That's why they call it learning.
Huh?
That's why they call it learning. We can learn it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. For others do react to attack if they perceive it, and if you are trying to attack them, you will be unable to avoid interpreting this as reinforcement. The only place you can cancel out a reinforcement is in yourself. For you are always the first point of your attack, and if this has never been, it has no consequences. The first point of your attack. I got to remember that, because this thing in Texas and stuff, it's really got me going, and it's like to the point where I'm not feeling good, all those, the itching's coming back and all those wonderful things. And
That's self-attack.
It is.
And
I just got to realize that what I'm doing is I'm attacking myself first,
Right.
And attacking them.
Like Connie is saying, it's not helping. It's
not helping at all.
And it is what the ego is teaching us to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's teaching us to suffer because other people are suffering. It doesn't make any sense.
No.
And in effect, when we look at that situation and we get stuck in being bummed out about it, we're letting that situation attack us.
Yes.
That's why he's reinforcing you can cancel this out inside yourself.
Right.
I mean, that's what forgiveness means.
Exactly.
It had no effect.
Right.
I just want to make sure that we address, before we go on with Kathy in the second, did we address your concerns, Laura, in that paragraph before?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was kind of two parts. It was there really are no victims, which is really hard to think about in a situation like this, especially where children are involved.
Yeah.
But I think that's really a key thing to help us get back to the light and to be able to heal others through ourselves. Which is, I don't think I was really clear when I made that point, because I kind of interwove it with the other point, which was I can't perceive any attack unless I already think I'm vulnerable. So once I really get that, as you say, and I really learn and can heal myself, then there will eventually be a time that I can no longer perceive attack.
Right.
Okay, sounds great. Good.
I want to share with you a little story that helps me. There was a major plane crash. And the next day I had this inner vision of the plane going down. So it hit the ground and everybody was instantly dead. I had this picture in my mind, this little movie of passengers in the plane suddenly looking at one another and saying, what just happened? Being in spirit and saying, what just happened? In other words, death is like a passage. It's not what it appears to be when we believe that we're bodies. When we believe that we're bodies, we can mourn and
but
all of that. And it's like, that's not who we are. And we have to recognize that if we're going to be miracle workers.
I think that's really good, but I think it's important to say, don't go then to, there's really no problem. There is a problem.
Right. If you're called to help, by all means.
Well, I don't just mean being my response to that. I have a problem because I'm interpreting this incorrectly and I feel weakened.
Right.
There is a problem. I can't just dismiss it because in reality, none of this is happening.
Yeah, right.
There is a problem.
And the problem is in me.
And I can cancel it out
in me. Right. The buck stops here.
Because there's a lot of people who work on social problems, political problems, but they never heal on the inside.
Yeah.
So that's the other side of it.
Great discussion. Thank you. So Laura, it's your turn. Would you read 4, please?
Okay. The Holy Spirit's love is your strength, for yours is divided and therefore not real. You cannot trust your own love when you attack it. You cannot trust your own love when you attack it. So my special love or my conditional love, they mean, yes. Okay. You cannot learn of perfect love with the split mind, because a split mind has made itself a poor learner. You tried to make the separation eternal because you wanted to retain the characteristics of creation, but with your own content. Yet creation is not of you, and poor learners do need special teaching. So, yet creation is not of you. Does that means, I guess in this plane, the creation is, I mean, we can co-create like God, but that's only extending love, right? So this is talking about creation is not I guess I'm not really sure what Five is saying.
What it's saying is you're not self-created. You have a creator.
Okay.
I'm not a body. I'm free. I'm still as God created me. I mean, that when it's saying the ego is trying to retain the characteristics of creation, it's trying to believe that it's self-created and separate from everything else.
And eternal.
And eternal.
Yeah, that the ego is eternal, and that the conflict of the world is eternal. This is the myth that many people accept, that hell and heaven are constantly in a battle, and it's going to go on forever, right? God and Satan are constant. That is an ego story. And by the way, we're not, in the Course's terms, we're not co-creators, we're co-makers. The Holy Spirit is a co-maker of the world with us.
Yeah, even the world itself. In fact, he says that somewhere. Don't think you made the world. You made an illusion, because the only world is the real world, where there's love and calls for love that are answered through the Holy Spirit. That's a really good point. But that whole idea of, I mean, that's what the ego is trying to do, is self-create itself with no influence with nothing around it, right? Whenever the first time I read this, there's a picture of me at 4 years old, and I have my dad's hat on, and it kind of goes over my ears, and I'm wearing his coat, and the length,
shoes.
his shoes, and the coat goes over my arms like that, and it's like I'm a little man trying to be a grown-up.
Yeah,
and that's what the ego is.
that's what the ego.
It's a little nothing trying to be a grown-up.
Yeah,
and it can't self-create. That's why we're healed, because we have a creator.
right.
We're not just self-created.
I like that line at the end. Poor learners do need special teaching. So it's telling us we can't undo this by ourselves. And the next paragraph is going to really get into that special education thing. Eric, would you read for us, please?
You have learning handicaps in a very literal sense. There are areas in your learning skills that are so impaired that you can progress only under constant, clear-cut direction provided by a teacher who can transcend your limited resources. He becomes your resource because of yourself you cannot learn. The learning situation in which you placed yourself is impossible. And in this situation, you clearly require a special teacher and a special curriculum. Poor learners are not good choices as teachers, either for themselves or for anyone else. You would hardly turn to them to establish the curriculum by which they can escape from their limitations. If they understood what is beyond them, they would not be handicapped. I like that last line, actually. If they understood what is beyond them, they would not be handicapped. So it's because we don't understand what is beyond us.
Yeah.
Except it's not really beyond us, is it? It just seems to be beyond us.
That's
right.
Yep.
Yeah. Sentence 2. only under constant, clear-cut direction provided by a teacher who can transcend your limited resources. I think that's, speaking for myself anyway, it's the constancy and the clear-cut direction that I try to get away from. It's almost like it's like a naughty child, isn't it? It doesn't really want to learn. So, all right, I'll sit still for a while, but then it'll be off, you know, fidgeting and whatever. So I feel a bit like that actually. But even though the Holy Spirit's like laser pointing down at me, saying, "Right, you've got to learn this." Yeah. It's like I'm wriggling away and trying to escape.
I like, that's really interesting. The child's compliant, but he doesn't really believe in what the parent is saying.
Yeah.
And the Holy Spirit's just trying to teach us how to be happy. That's all. Ego says, well, I'm going to do it my way. I want to have a little drama here. Yeah.
I mean, that, without, I think at the beginning of this paragraph here, he's having a real more clear, in-depth description of what it means to feel weakened.
All this stuff about being a special ed student.
Yeah, I mean, he said you have learning handicaps. Yeah. That reflects what he's saying about our weakness. I have these learning. Well, he's going to cover it in the next paragraph.
Oh, all right.
Literally what he means by that. But that's what it means to be a weakened person. I'm not learning. I'm getting these lessons, but I'm like, he was saying about a kid. He just resists what the parent's telling him.
Yeah. Pretty amazing how that it takes a lifetime sometimes to learn these lessons, or I don't know, maybe more, but at least as we try, we get happier and happier.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of reinforcement. But that whole paragraph is about our limited resources, how we need constant, clear-cut direction. We need a special teacher and special curriculum. We're handicapped. One of the big handicaps that it appears to me is the way our senses work. They appear to bring things into us that are true out there, and then we get to process them and react to them. When really what's going on is we decide what we want, we project it outward, then we see it and react to it.
That is the big turnaround. You know what I find interesting is that in chapter 8, where he's talking about the ego's curriculum and the Holy Spirit's curriculum, and he says of the ego's curriculum, does the total disregard of anything it teaches make any sense at all? Is this the teacher to whom a son of God would turn to find himself?
The ego it's talking about?
Yeah, talking about the ego, because it never succeeds.
I know.
In giving us really satisfaction. It's always, even if we feel satisfaction with the goal, then we move on. Oh, no, it's got to be something else. It's got to be something else. But that inner peace,
right?
The ego never provides it.
Never does. And that was the last section we read, seeking and finding. Ego says seek and do not find.
Yeah.
Especially about love. And that's what the next paragraph is about too. In fact, I guess this whole section is about love.
Well, and it's about learning too, in terms of handicaps. So let's go on to 6.
Okay, that would be Dale. Paragraph 6.
You do not know the meaning of love, and that is your handicap. Well, as long as we're trying to understand it from our ego, we never will.
Right.
Do not attempt to teach yourself what you do not understand. And do not try to set up curriculum goals where yours have clearly failed. Boy, that is so true. It's something, maybe it's our culture, I don't know, but we're kind of programmed that way to constantly keep trying to learn from the same thing that fails over and over. We'll just get better at it and it won't fail as much, it seems like, when we're really missing the mark. And I'm involved on the margin of some things that are very much like that in organized religion. and I listen and try and practice principles that we talk about in this course, but they keep doing the same thing over and over again. So, and I was part of my life for a long time.
Yeah.
Your learning goal has been not to learn, and this cannot lead to successful learning. Well, it wasn't my conscious goal not to learn. I mean, it's the programming we've got. I wanted to learn, but I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot transfer what you have not learned, and the impairment of ability to generalize is a crucial learning failure. Would you ask those who have failed to learn what learning aids are for? They do not know. If they could interpret the aids correctly, they would have learned from them. You know what strikes me about this is trying to live in the world using these principles,
Mm-hmm.
when so many times, certainly you can't verbalize them, or I can't, in the people I know, but trying to live them when I know that they're right, but so many people don't even want to talk about it,
Right.
or attack it. I've had to learn to not engage with that,
Mm-hmm.
and to not resist it. And maybe that's one of the big things that we all need to learn, is not to try and resist when we're living these principles.
Yeah.
It's you kind of got 1 foot in, 1 foot out of the world. We all have to function in the physical world as we perceive it, but at the same time, I want to see it differently from these principles, and sometimes it's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only difficult because I think it's difficult. Honestly, it's really not. I just want to think that it's difficult, that I'm doing something special, when actually I'm just being myself,
Mhm.
or what I should be anyway.
Yeah.
Thanks. That describes a lot of us a lot of the time.
You know, you've addressed this a number of times, and I have a meeting with old friends, and a lot of them are fundamentalists. A couple of them are fundamentalists, and I hearken back to your conversation because he kept saying he has a real trouble with this neighbor about the fences and whatnot. Doesn't matter, and he says, I keep forgiving him, but nothing changes. And what I tried to share with him is that if you've really forgiven, there will be a change within you.
Mm-hmm.
But he thinks forgiveness is going to change the situation. And that's the big difference
Mm-hmm.
between the course. Now, our situations will change, but maybe not the things that we think are wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can only cancel this out within myself.
Right.
You know,
Right.
And what's the criteria I did it? I have peace.
Right.
I have contentment.
Right. So it says somewhere farther on in the course that the miracle, which the main miracle is changing our mind, of course.
Yeah.
So when we change our mind, that's all we have to do. And then how that extends is the Holy Spirit's business, not ours.
Yeah.
So how that plays out in the world is not our business.
Right.
We just have to change our mind. Okay. Anything else on paragraph 6?
That seek, but do, try to learn, but do not succeed. That's the ego's curriculum.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So keep watching the news day and night. It runs 24 hours. Keep watching it, trying to learn. How can the world be better if I learn from what's on the news? Chances are you can't if the news is coming from the ego belief in separation and a different idea of what's real from what the course is teaching. You won't learn. You won't learn how to give peace.
One definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's see now. I think it was Dale who read 6. That would be Connie then is on 7. And Connie, that's a long one. So break it up any way you want.
Or not.
Or not.
I have said that the ego's rule is seek and do not find. Translated into curricular terms, this means try to learn but do not succeed. The result of this curriculum goal is obvious. Every legitimate teaching aid, every real instruction, and every sensible guide to learning will be misinterpreted, since they are all for facilitating the learning this strange curriculum is against. This is one of those parts of the course where it makes it sound so complicated when it's so simple.
Well, we'll try to straighten it out as we go.
If you are trying to learn how not to learn, and the aim of your teaching is to defeat yourself, what can you expect but confusion? Such a curriculum does not make sense. This attempt at learning has so weakened your mind that you cannot love, for the curriculum you have chosen is against love and amounts to a course in how to attack yourself. You know, this whole section, I keep thinking, is all about believing that the separation occurred.
Yes.
Yep.
I believe I'm separate. I believe I'm a body. And the ego just buys into all these world things.
Yeah.
I heard something the other day that I thought was so profound. Someone was saying how, you know, the black hole, they've got this thing where you can hear the sound of the black hole. And somebody said that the news headline was like, dangerous sound of the black hole. Like right away, the news is making it sound bad.
Yeah.
It's a threat.
Yeah, it's a threat. You have to watch out. There's something bad out there. And to a degree, that's how everything is played out. Even this thing in Texas, you know, it's like it's played out to bring out the fear. And if I believe the course, I know that I have nothing to fear, you know, but it's in my daily life, it's a challenge to really get there.
Absolutely.
A supplementary goal in this curriculum is learning how not to overcome the split that makes its primary aim believable.
So that's the ego's curriculum.
Pardon?
That would be the
Right.
ego's curriculum. Yeah.
Right, because the ego perceives a split,
Mm-hmm.
a separateness. And you will not overcome the split in this curriculum, for all your learning will be on its behalf. In other words, if I'm trying to learn through the ego, I'll never get anywhere.
Right.
Right.
Yet your mind speaks against your learning as your learning speaks against your mind. Yet your mind speaks against your learning as your learning speaks against your mind. And so fight against all learning and succeed, for that is what you want. So it's all about having a split mind and not really believing that I'm one with God and one with everyone.
Right.
Right.
But perhaps you do not realize even yet that there is something you want to learn, and that you can learn it because it is your choice to do so. To me, that's something perhaps you do not realize even yet. That's something that I want to learn, is that I'm never separate. I never separated, that even though I'm in this body, I'm one with God, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You're not really in the body.
Right.
The body is in your mind.
Yeah. So remember what he said 2 sections back, where he talks about the split mind. If only the loving thoughts of God's Son are the world's reality, the real world must be in his mind. So the loving world is in our mind. His insane thoughts too must be in his mind, but an internal conflict of this magnitude he cannot tolerate. A split mind is engendered, and the recognition that it encompasses completely opposed thoughts within itself is intolerable. Therefore, the mind projects the split, not the reality.
Right.
And that's the purpose of the seeming world that we see,
Right.
is to avoid the fact the problem's right here.
Right.
And I can solve that problem right now.
Right now by
And then-
turning to Holy Spirit.
And my belief is then I will have some way to respond to social or political situations, but I'm not coming from conflict and attack.
Right.
I'm coming from peace.
Total peace.
I mean, that's how Gandhi got rid of and Martin Luther King took it up. He found peace inside.
Right.
And it was, that's what Jesus was saying. I was murdered. I was tortured. I did not interpret that of myself.
Right.
And look what he did for the whole world.
Yeah.
So seeing that I can correct this problem right here,
Mhm.
and then I do have the means to
Mhm.
go through whatever seems like the world.
Yeah.
I do have a way to respond.
So the people that you mentioned, Gandhi and Martin Luther King,
Yeah.
maybe you mentioned somebody else, they had this sense of great power,
Yeah.
right? They knew they were invulnerable because they knew they weren't bodies. Their whole life wasn't about protecting their body, right? They knew they were spirit, and therefore they could use the body in a powerful way. Yeah.
And they could find a loving way to respond.
And they did.
Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't just go sit in the corner, Okay. Anything else about paragraph 7? Are we going to come out of this feeling very powerful in our true self?
Yeah.
I think we might. Okay, so there's a great line in this next one, number 8. You know which one it is. Kathy, would you read 8 for us, please? And you could emphasize sentence 3.
Okay. All right. You who have tried to learn what you do not want should take heart. For although the curriculum you set yourself is depressing indeed, it is merely ridiculous if you look at it. It is impossible. The way to achieve a goal is not to attain it. Never thought of that. Resign now as your own teacher. Yes. I remember when this first became not insulting. I was really proud. I was really proud of my book learning,
Wow.
Mhm.
and it's like, really? I just felt so hurt.
That's a sure sign of the ego.
Yeah, really.
The spirit never feels hurt. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Resign now as your own teacher. This resignation will not lead to depression. It is merely the result of an honest appraisal of what you have taught yourself and of the learning outcomes that have resulted. If I don't like the way I feel, I need to look at what got me there,
Right.
not what
No.
somebody else did. It's like it's all inside here.
Yeah.
Under yourself and of the learning outcomes that have been resulted. Under the proper learning conditions, which you can neither provide nor understand, you will become an excellent learner, an excellent teacher. But it is not yet so, and will not be so until the whole learning situation as you have set it up is reversed. So the more invulnerable I'm feeling, that's a clue that I'm on the right track.
Right.
The quick and dirty litmus test there,
Yeah.
and if I'm seeing somebody else is invulnerable as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
They are invulnerable no matter what it looks like.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's great. I used to feel insulted when he would say time dependent things like, it is not so yet, right? It's like, well, how many times do I have to read this course before it is so,
But see, that's what we've obviously learned the lessons of the course because we found inner peace.
Yeah.
So I think when he talks about time like that, he's saying if you're associated with the ego,
Yeah.
then you've learned nothing,
Yeah.
right?
Or it's not so when you're reading the course for the first time, or he was speaking to Helen and Bill at that moment. You know, there's a place where it says you haven't received the holy instant, and then later on it says you have. So, you know.
Well, don't you think that also addressed to sometimes you're in the ego and sometimes you're in your spirit and go back and forth. You know, I mean, it's every time there's an upset, then that's a clue.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's the value of the concept of the split mind, because we do go back and forth. It does seem like I need to attack to make myself safe on occasion.
Sometimes you get fooled like that.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, 10 times a day sometimes.
Yeah.
Right. But I would, so he's, you know, this idea that you can learn in paragraph 7 says the result of the ego's curriculum is obvious. Try to learn, but do not succeed. And then it says every legitimate teaching aid, every real instruction, and every sensible guide to learning will be misinterpreted, since they're all facilitating the learning the strange curriculum is against. So what is every teaching aid? What is every instruction? What is every sensible guide? Is like, I do feel peace when I recognize this first and foremost is my interpretation. I can change that interpretation.
I am responsible.
I can feel peace and contentment.
Right.
I can find a way to relate to the circumstances around me. Right. But that's where he's saying that's what the ego is constantly doing. It's forgetting that wait a minute, we're forgetting, I did find peace when I dropped attack.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And so we're not using our memories correctly. Those are the kinds of learning aids.
And also constant clear-cut direction provided by the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Over there in paragraph 5. It's like, be vigilant only for God in this kingdom.
Yeah.
You know, just hold on to that Holy Spirit or Jesus or whatever name you have for your higher self, the Christ mind. It's like constant clear-cut direction, constantly ask. Otherwise, I think I'm my own teacher. I think that what I see and my instant interpretation is right, and then I can act on that.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It said one of the constructs of the ego is it can't trust anything else but itself.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I got to figure this out.
Yeah. Right.
I can do this myself.
Yeah. There was a song when we were teenagers. Mother, please, I'd rather do it myself. It's like,
that was a commercial.
Spirit, please, leave me alone. I'll figure it out. I've studied the course, I know. But it's not about what's in the book. It's about what's in our connection with Holy Spirit.
I don't need any help. I'm not angry. I'm not angry.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else about anything we've read so far?
I liked sentence 6. You can neither provide nor understand the proper learning conditions.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, it's completely out of my hands how I learn this, really. Yeah. If I'm trying to work out, well, if I do this, then it'll be better and I'll learn better and things will progress. And it's like, just give that whole idea up, because you've no idea. You can't understand it by definition.
Right. Yeah.
And we can use things like a shooting in Texas, and I don't want to minimize that, but we can use things like and go, what can I do?
Yeah.
What can I do about that?
Or we can say, let me get my mind quiet, join with those parents, join with those children, join with the shooter, join with everyone in love, and just be there. You know, to me, that's the healing prayer. They are as God created them. They're one with me in truth. That's what we could really do.
We can. We could work on the conditions that allow that to go on if we're called to do that.
If we're called to do it, yeah.
You know, one thing, it seems to me, and I'm speaking for myself, the hardest thing for me to learn to do is to get from my head to my heart.
Yeah.
And the quickest way that I found to do that is from the Course. Is when I'm just really totally lost, is just forgive myself for my separation. And I can feel a physical change, and I feel instant peace. But as long as I'm trying to rationalize it, and I'm lost most of the time, honestly, to tell you the truth. I mean, it's a constant thing of forgiving myself over and over for a belief in separation. Otherwise, I get so caught up in trying to do everything just right to get there. And it's easy to just say, hey, man, I give up. I need your help.
I need your help. Yeah. That's beautiful. That's what Connie was saying too.
That is true. I mean, the Course later on, the little hindrance in that section is like, always go back to that existential moment when you believe you just chose to be without love.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. Mm-hmm. And all of these are just manifestations of that one event, one decision. And you can make one decision to change that.
To change it.
I'm
well,
not
good. We
from
resign now as our own teachers.
Yeah.
And that's not going to depress you, the next line says.
All right.
Yeah.
No, that'll bring joy, really.
Yeah.
Laura, would you read 9 for us, please?
Sure. Your learning potential, properly understood, is limitless because it will lead you to God. You can teach the way to Him and learn it if you follow the teacher who knows the way to Him and understands his curriculum for learning it. The curriculum is totally unambiguous because the goal is not divided and the means and the end are in complete accord. You need offer only undivided attention. Everything else will be given you. For you really want to learn aright, and nothing can oppose the decision of God's Son. His learning is as unlimited as He is. Yeah. Just following from the last paragraph, I think it's just about trusting and accepting without having to understand everything.
Yeah.
Trust that whatever's happening is for our best learning, and accept things that may seem wrong to us in our own judgments because we don't really understand.
Right.
Nothing the Holy Spirit can't use for our teaching. So how can it be wrong?
Right.
Yeah. That's a good way to say it. Yeah. Everything.
It really stood out for me. You need only offer undivided attention. That's the same thing as go for the constant, clear-cut direction provided by the Holy Spirit, who can transcend our limited resources.
That's it. Every moment.
Yeah.
And that's why the holy, like he says, the holy instant and the holy relationship where you share that are the two teaching aids. Like this moment in the present, if I can see how I'm thinking in the past or in the future and come present and expect that peace.
And every life situation will provide some form of that.
Yeah.
I like what Laura said about it's all for our learning, because sometimes we think, well, that situation, let's say my mortgage was foreclosed. I lose my home. Well, that's a terrible situation. But if it's for my learning, and my learning is so that I can get to heaven, it will provide for me just exactly what I need to get to my ultimate goal. If we're constantly setting up physical goals and making sure that they get met, we could do that, but we're not going to be going in the direction of our happiness. So, no matter what it looks like, when we hold on to Holy Spirit's hand, His presence, it doesn't look bad. It shows up as, wow, that opened up a door to something new and fresh and beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's the external part of the miracle.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a sign where they talk about the midlife crisis. You went out, you thought you got the right job, the right partner, but everything. And I'm in my middle life and I'm going, I'm not satisfied.
Right. Happens all
I
the
thought
time.
that was and that's the sign of the ego, is that by the time you get to that goal, it's diminished in your awareness and something else has to come up. Now something else,
Right.
and it's always about changing something except my mind.
But I like what you say about you discover in that situation that you've climbed to the top of the ladder, but the ladder was against the wrong wall.
Right. Right.
Okay. Any last thoughts? Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.